One of the biggest challenges facing solopreneurs and owners of growing businesses today is to cut through all the noise and the clutter online and to stand out and resonate in a respectful and purposeful way with those people who are in their target audience groups. Now, one way to do this is to create strategic omnipresence for your brand in the marketplace. Now, omnipresence obviously means being everywhere, and it is a multi-channel approach. But the moment you look at things strategically, that's not about being everywhere necessarily. It's about just generally and randomly. It's about being everywhere where your audience is. And one way I suggest we look at this is we look at our businesses. I've always said, become your own media channel and create your own content and grow your audience and be able to communicate directly with that audience. And I still believe that today. I've been banging that drum for more than 15 years and I still believe it. But now I'm taking it up a notch, and I think we now have the opportunity to create and build out our own media network. And I want to give you an example of what this might look like in through the eyes of the BBC. We need to think like the BBC, that veritable British media brand. We need to think like the BBC. So what does that look like? Well, when we look at the BBC, there is BBC One, there is BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC Four. You can see where this is going. They're multi-channels under the BBC brand, the BBC umbrella. And then there are other more specific niche channels, such as BBC Parliament, BBC News, and I'm not even going to say, I will say this, BBC, CBBC, the children's channel. So as you can see, by looking at having a real, I guess, a branded approach to their media network, and of course the BBC is much bigger than just these 7 channels, there's no reason why we can't take that on board and be doing that for our own businesses, because we have the tools, we have the technology, we have the know-how, we now need the passion and the wherewithal to do it. Alrighty, so BBC One, what would be your BBC One? Well, that could be your blog. So, you can shuffle any of these, what I'm about to go through, and mix them around. But think of your blog. I look at a blog as a content hub anyway. It's got all the things. It's your master brand, your premium content hub really is your BBC One. And what would we have for a BBC Two? Well, maybe your BBC Two is your podcast. BBC Three is your YouTube channel, for example. And BBC Four, your newsletter. And there's no reason why these channels or the content across these channels can't be repurposed across all of them. For example, I do it myself. I have a podcast that is recorded on riverside.fm. It's in video, recorded video as well as audio. So we've got the audio only podcast. We've got the video that does get repurposed and cut up and sent around everywhere on the social channels, but we also put the full interview up on YouTube. I turn it into a newsletter, so every episode goes out as a newsletter. And then we go more specialist again, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, really are your BBC Parliament, your news, and your CBBC. In my example, I use all of these channels, but really it's not about having new content necessarily. You might put different things on Instagram than you do on LinkedIn, for example. But if you look at it, you have that one long form destination show. It lives on your blog as a video or a podcast, an audio player embedded into your podcast, into your blog. So we got the podcast, you got the YouTube channel, you got the newsletter, same content, and then you splice and dice and cut it all up, and you spread it out, and your digital breadcrumbs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. This is all doable. People are doing this all the time. I'm doing this all the time, and it's just a really strategic way of approaching your content. And that's, we've got to be smarter with with what we're doing as a business owner and a content creator, because we are content creators at the same time, and we are now proprietors of our own media network.